I have invited a friend of mine, a graduate of the program from Estes, Mr. James Mann. James, would you introduce yourself to our friends here at PP?
I'm James Mann, a.k.a. Miss Doubtfire. And it's my first day as a woman, and I'm already having hot flashes. Future owner and operator of the AC Man. And when it gets hotter than you plan, you can call the AC Man. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm from Texas, Houston, as a matter of fact. I'm 54 years old. I had a family. We three kids. Excellent life growing up. But I started mixing some chemical dependency in there. And it cost me my marriage, cost me a lot of things in my life. And it eventually drove me to homelessness. And I lived on the streets for a couple of years. And it was really tough. That's a whole story in itself right there, because I went through some things, and it's that put me in the mindset where I didn't have an existence anywhere. There was no place I was supposed to be. And then I fought my way up off the streets. And the way my story goes, I cried out to God and asked him to help me. And
James,
he did.
Will you give us a little picture? You said you were on the streets. How long were you living on the streets? How long were you homeless?
I was living on the streets for about 2 years. And that was coming off the heels of bouncing from rehab to rehab, and from residential treatment to residential treatment. And then I ended up getting arrested one night in a rental car that had all my possessions in there. And I had burned all the bridges in my life. And when I got out of jail, I had no place to go but to live on the streets. And I started living in the shelters at first until I lost my identification, and I couldn't even stay in those anymore. And that's when I started having to sleep under underpasses and do what I could. And
James, were you ever one of those guys on the street corner with a sign?
Yes, sir. Actually, I had two corners that were regulars, and PEP actually did a story in December, the newsletter, and they had a picture of me on the cover of it with a bloody face, and I had a beard. And that was actually after I had to fight for one of my corners one time, because that was some serious business out there. Those corners, they fight over them. And that's how far I had gotten. And I decided my story wasn't going to end like that. I cried out to God, and I knew something was going to happen, but I never thought I was going to take the path that I did, and that was going to prison. And when I showed up,
have you been in prison, James?
This was the second time I had been to prison. I had been to prison once in the 90s, in my 30s, and it was on a drug conviction. That was back when they were sending drug convictions to prison. Now the largest part of them are state jail felonies, and they have their own facilities. But yeah, that was a period when everybody was going to prison for every crime. And but the second time when I went was when I was in 50s, and I never would have seen myself going back, but I did. And it was just it was a mixture of chemicals, self-medication, mental health issues, and everything. It led me to where I ended up, I assaulted my landlord, because I had fought and got up off the streets, and I got into a boarding house, and I got in a fight with my landlord, and I got arrested and charged with assault. And that's where I went back. And when I showed up in prison, I was on psych meds. I was sent to a medical unit, and I was out of it. And by the grace of God, he helped me. I said, if I'm going to stop this, here's a perfect place in a controlled environment. So I went ahead and took myself off of psych medication. And I had read about PEP in the journal, the manual that they hand out, the inmate manual. And but I never would have dreamed that it was anything like it was. I would like to say that God made PEP for me, because it's fit everything that I've needed in my life. When you come out, whether you're looking for just a job, whether you're looking for some help to get into a certain vocation, or if you're looking for a place where you can stay while you build your resources and get you an emergency fund, you can find that through PEP. But the thing about it is every now and then someone comes along who has lost everything in their life and run everybody completely out of their life and has hit rock bottom in prison. And when they really truly want to change their way of life and they see this, PEP is more than an excellent resource for that. It's unbelievable. I don't understand how anybody could get out and say that PEP was not there for them. Everything from job resources to letters of recommendation to tips on jobs. It's been amazing. And then I know every aspect of my life that I've needed so far some help, whether it's like now I'm planning on getting in real estate, whether it's real estate, researching the market. There's always a resource in PEP that can not only help me with that, but it's probably some of the best help in that field. So it's really been excellent.
James, let's go back and talk a little bit about your experience on the inside. You know, what about the program on the inside really grabbed you?
Well, you know, honestly, I'm not going to lie, when prior to getting the letter to PEP, I was looking at going back to the same situation that I had left on the streets of having no place. And my daughter started talking to me, and actually one of them came to see me, and I asked her, could we lie to parole and tell them that I was going to parole to her address, but when I got out, I wouldn't actually stay there. And so that was the plan. And so when I got the letter from PEP, the first thing I saw was the transitional house. I can't say I'm lying about it. That was the sole thing. And when I looked at how they said the curriculum was really tough and everything, I just said, hey, I'll have to knuckle up and take that. I can do that for 3 months, and I'll just have to do that for the transitional house. And so I went in with that mindset. When I got there and they started telling me, well, hold up, we're not going to get into the business part yet. Let's work on you first. I'm like, well, that really didn't make much sense because, you know, but the thing about it is I went into it with an open mind. And honestly, there were things that I didn't want to address in my life that I blamed other people for. And it hit the authentic manhood, hit me like a 2x4 right in the face. And it made me own all of my stuff. And it made me realize that I had created my own prison and that the common denominator in all this was me and my selfishness. And so until I realized that and changed my mindset, I would have just kept perpetuating the same actions and lifestyles that I had before. And so probably the most important part for me was the phase one authentic manhood. And you know, and I like the way that they put it was, we could teach you how to start a business and we could teach you how to operate a business, but we got to teach you how to keep it first.
Mm-hmm. What roles did you do for us on the inside as a servant leader?
Well, once I graduated, I applied for a couple of positions. I worked in the computer room, computer tutoring for a while. That was the PEP jobs I had, and I eventually moved it to test grader and then lead test grader. But the more important roles were the roles that were in the dorm. And I was accountability group leader, but I got offered hired positions, but I always navigated or towards the pod mentor position. And I really enjoyed that because the demographics wise, I was part of probably the 2%ers with my age and everything in there. And the thing about it is the younger guys have a tendency to listen to the older gentlemen. And so that was a natural fit for me. And I relished that mentor position, and I got to bring that out with me.
James, now you shared something with me that I wasn't aware of. There's something special. You have a special connection with your class, Legacy, right? You want to talk about that?
Well, when we were going through in phase one, we got to the point where they wanted to come up with the class name. And man, I'm going to tell you what, they were coming up with some, we had Breadwinners 18, and we were coming up with all kind of class names. And they had come up with one that was kind of a double entendre that made an innuendo. And so they voted it in, but then the next day they come back and said, oh, the home office said y'all can't use that. And so we had to go meet in the room again to go over it. And I hadn't said anything the first day, but it just something hit me inside, and I stood up and I said, I don't know about y'all. I said, but I came here because I have not a mark left on this earth if I left today. Mm-hmm. And so the purpose of this program is I'm going to come here and I'm going to create a legacy. And so I think we should be called Legacy 18, and everybody just loved it. And so we got voted in, and so we're the class of Legacy 18.
Well, I guess I need to reach out to you anytime we need some naming going on. All right, let's talk about now your transition out. How long have you been out in the free world?
I've been out about 10 months now, Brian. I went to Columbia House, and I stayed there. I got out at the end of May, the 1st of June of 2019. And so from there all the way up until December, I was at Columbia House. And I worked on the north side, just 5 minutes away from the O'Brien House at Benihana's, which is excellent. I'm sure everybody heard about Benihana's, and they love PEP. And the general manager always quotes Brian Kelly.
We need to give him some more words to choose from. But I will tell everybody this: they probably hired close to 30 people, PEP guys at Benihana's. Is that right? That would
be a modest estimate. Yeah. Yeah, so they were really good. I was really they really work with the guys. They accommodate their schedules and everything like that. And getting back on subject, I worked there for 4 or 5 months, and I used public transportation every day, and it was 2 buses and a train to get there one way. So it was about 3 hours daily round trip that I was having to commute until I could save up, and I bought me an automobile. And I started doing all the things that I was supposed to do. I did the e-school in 16 weeks straight without missing a week. I got involved with Watermark's IDA program. As of this month, I'm 6 months. I've qualified. So in 6 more months, I'll have a real nice nest egg to apply towards a home, or auto, business, or some education. And I haven't missed any classes on that, and I've been making my payments faithfully. So everything, and it's because I made my mind up that I wanted to get out and I wanted to take advantage of all the resources, because it's tough enough already for a lot of these guys when they get out, and I see them falling into the pitfalls. And when they get out, I try to tell them, do this, do that, follow this. And a lot of times when they want to do things and they want to know how to do it, like the free phones and everything, a lot of times they come to me, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I love being a resource of information for these guys. But I sure wish I could see them take advantage of everything that's available to them.
You brought up a great point about the IDA program that's tied to our partners in Watermark. And so for those of you who don't know, the guys go through a faith and finance class at Watermark, and then on the back side of that, you get assigned a financial mentor, right? And you're able to save money over the next 2 years, I believe. Is that right? And
it can go as, yeah, I'm sorry. It can go as long as 2 years. Typically, it's just a year.
Okay. And then they will match whatever you save regularly 4 to 1, which is an amazing opportunity for our guys when they get out. What's the brotherhood like, at the transitional houses or just in Dallas in general?
Brian, that's been one of the most important parts of this also. A lot of my brothers that were in my class, a lot of the guys that were my peer educators in a class or two ahead of me, and even some of the guys that I knew that were there when there's a camaraderie out here. I've experienced camaraderie through AA and other organizations, but I've never seen a camaraderie like the brotherhood out here, how we take care of each other, and we meet each other for coffee, and there's just it's a close connection. And like right now, I've got guys that have lost jobs because of this pandemic. And every time I find job openings or anything like that, I text them out to all my friends that are unemployed right now. So I know that PEP, I have created some lifelong bonds of good men with integrity. And that's one of the more important things that I wanted to do when I got out, was surround myself with good, positive people. And I've done that.
Well, I want to commend you for your integrity and make sure everybody knows that James has risen to the place where he's our house manager in Dallas and does a great job of that. But, I just want to punctuate this point. That came from a point where 2 years of homelessness, and now you're our house manager. How does that make you feel?
Brian, sometimes I have to stop because I get overwhelmed. Just to know that there were periods in my life where I didn't even have a place where I could stand. When you're on the streets in downtown Houston and you stand for too long in one spot, they tell you to move along. And going from not even having a place to stand to having a place where I've got a roof over my head. I have everything I need. It's unbelievable. I have banks accounts. I have IDAs. I have a 401k. It's just unbelievable the things that I have in my life. And, we take ownership of this house too. We appreciate everything that the volunteers and the executives bring us and do for us. And we want to try to repay that and trying to making this place better than it was when we got here and leaving it in better condition when we leave.
Well, you're clearly doing a great job of that. And there was something we kind of scooted right past that I want to go back to because I think it's super important. You shared with me your bottom, that moment that you recognize when you're in Salvation Army, something happened that made you realize, I don't want to live like this anymore. What was that?
I think the turning point was that one night I was staying at a shelter, and I got a phone call from my mom. Always made sure I had a little phone, and when I would get off the streets at night, she wanted me to call her and let her know I was safe off the corners. And my daughters called me one night, said they wanted to see me. And I had already checked into the shelter for the night, and I tried to leave, and the gentleman at the door told me, he said, well, if you leave, you can't come back in tonight. And I told him, I don't need to come back in. My daughters are coming to get me. And I went out, and I met them just a few blocks down the road, and they got out, and they laid into me really hard, told me I was a disgrace and that they never wanted to see me again, that I needed to do something with my life. And they got in the car, and they left. And that hurt like I've never felt before. And after that, I could see, I started seeing things differently, and I could see that the drug addiction out there, I could see the alcoholism, and I could clearly see more mental illness. And I knew that I could easily fall into any three of those categories. And I decided that that's not how my story was going to end, that the first few chapters had been written, but I get to write to how the story ends. And when I cried out to God, He had the plan. He already knew it was going to happen. He knew how it was going to work. If I probably would have known the way it was going to happen, I would have backed out. But He knew what was going on, and it took getting me in handcuffs to get me there and sit me down. But that's what happened.
How has that played out with your family, with your kids? Has there been any reconnection there?
Yeah, unfortunately, my mom was my sole connection when I got locked up. And she passed away since then. She passed away 2 years ago. But my daughters were going and seeing her when she was in the hospital, and she told them, she said, you need to call your dad. And so my daughters connected with me when I was locked up, and they started coming and visiting me. They came to my graduation. It was one of the greatest experiences I ever had. They told me they were really proud of me. I don't just call them weekly now. I call them daily, just to see how they're doing, or shoot them text messages and keep in touch with them. The thing about it is I'm not part of their life right now. I live in Dallas because PEP wanted me to come to Dallas, and I wanted to do what someone else wanted to do for a change and not what James wanted to do. And my daughters were all behind it because they said that we can't see you coming back to Houston, and we see you've got something here with PEP, and you need to ride that tricycle all the way to the end of the street. And so they've been there for me, and I know that if I keep doing what I'm doing and keep living those 10 driving values, they're going to make room for me in their life. I know that.
My brother, you are a wonderful picture of transformation, and I just want to commend you. And so I think we want to see what that picture looks like going forward. So what's your 1 year plan, and then maybe your 5 year plan?
Good thing about it is, Brian, is I came out and I had made a 1 year plan and a 5 year plan, and that's great. And I think everybody needs to have one. But if I would have followed that, I would have sold myself short so far. The resources have been so great. The good thing about a plan is it gave me direction, and it started heading me in a direction. But so many things have opened up along the way. I always knew in all my vocation and I had management skills and construction management skills and retail management skills. And I really looked past that, and I knew I didn't want to work as a technician no more. So I see myself in the next year or two remaining in management. but I have the flexibility to be able to be that entrepreneur and get a couple of businesses going also. And I'm not going to rule out the AC man. And but I can see with the trajectory I'm going and with the goals that I have. My plans this year with the IDA watermark, what I want to do is, because originally I thought about transportation, but I know that when you save and you invest and you get this a windfall at the end of the year, you want it to be a sound investment. And I knew that if I invested in transportation, a car, that through depreciation I would lose some of that investment. So what I did was I worked on my credit. I got my credit score up through the help of one of our brothers, Corey Allison, that started a credit company. And as soon as I got up, I got a car financed at 5.9% interest and $240 a month. That took care of my transportation issues. So this, at the end of this year, my IDA watermark is going to get me involved with real estate.
Well, that's awesome, and I see our personal finance guys grinning. I think you're doing well along those lines. I want to open this up now and get some questions or comments from our volunteers. And as you guys think about what those might be, if you want to text us or wave at me or let me know if you have something. But first, I just want to say, brother, I am proud of you. You're doing the next right thing over and over and over. And I just want to commend you on your life and trajectory and the way that you are not only living a better life, but sowing seeds in other men's life around you. You're doing a great job, and I love you, and you're doing well. And so anybody out there have a question or a comment for James, let me know. You can wave at me. I see Judy. Judy's got, was that you, or are you scratching your face? You just bought a home in lovely. Anybody?
Yeah, James, this is Mark Gilbert.
Hey, Mark.
Very, very inspiring story. That that's what makes that whole program work, is see results like you just shared with us. Appreciate the time you spent with us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's my honor. Thank you.
James, I have a question. This is Dave Sakamoto. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've got really two questions. Having been through the experiences you've had, I mean, you've done a great job rebounding from all the things you've been experienced to. But my question is, you've been through a lot of programs through PEP and Baylor and the other things. When you got out and got into the real world, what are the biggest gaps that you found that you could say back to other people, God, I wish I would have had this in there. This would have helped prepare me for these kind of situations. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. What I would like to see, honestly, I'm not going to lie, I see a lot of my brothers come out, and I know vocational work is very important. You know, that's the backbone of our country and everything. And I see a lot of our guys, they go back into vocational training, and unfortunately, that work comes with a lifestyle. And that's one of the reason why I didn't go back into HVAC, because that work kind of perpetuated my lifestyle. And there's just some battles that I didn't want to have to fight right now. And so I started going more towards, I said, hey, you know what? I want to start working with my hands. This is a business program. So I enrolled in college. I'm going to El Centro. I'm trying to get a degree in business. And so I wanted to start working more. And the thing about it is this program really is set up perfectly with, if you want to come out and you want to go to school, and student loans will help you out, and you can get and that's what I did. I have student loans, and then I work part-time at Benihana's, and it allowed me to further my education and look for a different line of work and something that was more suited for me, that I would enjoy doing, because I could go out there and I could make $100,000 a year doing air conditioning work, but if I'm miserable and I'm living from check to check, then that's not doing any good. And I saved more money working at Benihana's for $10 an hour than I did the whole time I was making $100,000 a year out there on my own. So kudos to Watermark and PEP for teaching me some financing and some budgeting.
Well, what are you doing right now, James? Now that the virus has gotten everybody, locked down.
Well, there's a friend of mine that actually is he works for Veritex Bank, and is associated with Watermark Church, and he purchased a couple of businesses about a month and a half ago, and about 2 weeks later, all his employees quit because of COVID. And so with my management experience, he actually contacted PEP and said, hey, I need a couple of guys. And my name happened to be one of the first names that come up. And that's just evidence if you just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so my name was thrown out there. I interviewed for it. I went in there immediately with my attitude towards the 10 driving values of integrity, hard work, giving a man 8 hours work for 8 hours pay. And within a week, I took over the location of the store, and I got an additional raise. And he says that he says I'm a godsend, but he don't know that's the way I feel about him right now. So I'm manager of a postal center on Greenville Avenue in Dallas.
That's just awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anybody else with a question or a comment? Scott Schlegel?
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Hey, James, thanks for sharing. That is an amazing story. I think you've made all of our day, just hearing your story, and it's incredibly encouraging, and you tell it very well and very humbly, so appreciate that. When you were going through PEP, and I know you said you kind of got ambushed or surprised by the character part and knew the coursework would be hard, but what would you say were the most challenging aspects of the program? Or were there times when you even were contemplating whether or not you wanted to stick with it, or what were some of the hard parts?
I guess probably when you were going through the authentic manhood, and sometimes what you see, because you do have guys coming in off units and stuff, and what you do see a lot of times is you see two different people from the PEP room and the PEP dorm, and the thing was you have conflict, especially when you have people who are completely buying into the program 100%, and they're the same in the dorm and then as they are in the PEP room. And so just the brotherhood, there was a lot of personality conflicts, but the good thing about it is the structure that they have up about the accountability process. It's kind of, the guys don't like it at first, but it's a process that works and it's effective. And that's the accountability process, and it teaches you as a man to address your issues and talk face to face and communicate.
Amen to that. James, I got another quick question. Who are some of the volunteers who came into the inside who really invested in you, who really changed your life? This is your chance to kind of give a shot back out to them.
Man, I tell you, first of all, Keith Bird. Keith Bird's my mentor. He was really helpful in there. Scott Haygood, Dee, I always got some good feedback on all my business plans from her. Scott, Bob Callahan, Bob Greer, just guys like that they come in there and they treat you like an individual instead of a number, or and you're able to get on that personal level with them. And it's to me it meant a lot, because there was just a few years prior to that, there was a time in my life where I wasn't a real popular person, and just for that to have people just genuinely open up to you and have care and concern for you, that made a big part. And just like when I got out, Jason Moore, Jeremy Jones, Bobby Sharp, Tim Washington, Steve Fusil, those guys right there, when I got out and I seen a lot of directions so the guys were taking, what I started looking at the guys that were successful, and I started asking them questions. And they were a big part of it too, especially Steve Fusil, great guy, gave me a lot of good direction. And so there's just so many people that I couldn't even name that have actually, but those are a few that stood out.
Thank you for the humility you showed in sharing your story, and I think I'll speak for all of us. We believe in you, and we're proud of you. And so thank you for coming to do this. It's
been an honor. I appreciate every one of you guys and all the hard work that you give to this program. And trust me, I'm going to keep continuing to doing what I'm doing. I've got a no-fail plan now. It's just I just keep doing what God wants me to do, and I'm not going to go wrong. So.